Good evening, City Council members. My name is Josephine Landingen. I am a proud member of the California Nurses Association. I am an emergency room nurse and a resident of the city of Carson. Fracking for oil and natural gas is too dangerous. It threatens the water to drink, the air we breathe, and our health, the health of my community. It also accelerates climate change. For these reasons, we need to ban fracking and oil drilling from our city. City of Carson once and for all. As a nurse, I have seen the ill effects of pollution, bad air, contaminated water to my patients. As a resident of the city of Carson, I insist an emergency item to be put in the agenda, and the City Council votes to include a ban on oil fracking and drilling in our oil and gas code here in Carson. I urge this group to do the right thing for our city, our community. Let us take care of our health, the environmental now, not only for this generation, but for generations to come. Let our legacy be one that is positive and that contributes to the well-being of each and every one of the residents of this great city of Carson. Thank you.
Leaving abandoned wells, tank farms in the carousel, they were also drilling and leaving abandoned wells in other parts of Carson. I think before we can talk about a new code, we need to locate, identify, and inspect these abandoned wells. Because as it stands now, we don't know which of us are living on contaminated soil. So I would like to ask that the city look into who should locate and investigate, inspect these wells. And when we identify them, we should not tell the citizen to go to the internet and look at a Dogger map, which half of us can't understand. Some of the people don't even have internet. I think the city has the responsibility to create the map that identify where these wells are. And before we start talking about putting in a code that will allow drilling, and when you talk about allowing drilling in Carson, everywhere that I see is either next to residents, next to schools, or populated areas. And if we don't know where these wells are, how do we know what effect this additional drilling is going to have? Another thing, they talked about these wells being plugged with cowhide, wood, and what else? We don't even know if this wood and cowhide have not seeped out, and these wells are now seeping up. So I say before we do anything, let's find out the condition of our city. Where are these abandoned wells? Inspect these abandoned wells before we talk about additional drill and possible abandoned wells. Thank you.
Next speaker is Lori Knopflin.
Good evening, Carson. My name is Lori Knopflin. I'm a Carson resident and volunteer with Carson Connected. I'm here this evening to ask the City Council to place an emergency item on the agenda to include a permanent ban on new drilling here in Carson. Anybody willing to put this call for a vote? Not a one of you? Not a one of you. Since 2013, 6 people have taken the city manager's seat. That's 6 people in less than 2 years. It seems to me professional people are unwilling to follow your unethical lead. The residents have fought for more than 3 years to stop oil drilling here in Carson. We outlasted superpower Occidental Petroleum in the fight. And now the only people standing in the way of a ban on new drilling, like Beverly Hills, Compton, and other cities have provided their residents, is the four of you. The people who have allowed this to happen. You have not just allowed this to happen, you orchestrated it. You enlisted the Chamber of Commerce, the union, commissioners, and many unsuspecting residents. You solicit donations for organizations and businesses, mostly your friends. You manipulated us with events for our veterans and our children. And you use the media to cover up what you're doing here. Anything that requires the kind of unprofessional, unethical, and illegal activities like what you have been participating does not belong in Carson. I'd like to ask the residents of Carson to stand with us on Thursday, February 24th, 2015, at the Planning Commission public hearing to let them know we want no new drilling in Carson.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Rivera. I'm a community organizer in Wilmington for Communities for a Better Environment, an environmental justice organization with offices in the Northern and Southern California and with hundreds and thousands of members in the state. I'm here to support the Carson residents who are asking to include an item in your next city council meeting to add. Yes, I'm here to support the residents who are asking that as soon as possible you include an item to discuss your oil and gas code, to update it, and to include banning all new oil drilling. It's time for us to start putting an end to fossil fuels and new drilling. You really need to know where we're standing. Last year in Wilmington, a very small earthquake ruptured a pipe that had been decommissioned for over 20 years. But it's full, a very tiny earthquake made it rupture, and it's full hundreds, it's full hundreds of gallons of oil in a very quiet and middle-class neighborhood in Wilmington. People never expected that they would have that in front of their homes. And I think that we really don't know where we're standing, what pipelines, and what earthquake is going to trigger the worst. You already had a disaster in the Carousel area that they have paid the last consequences of the irresponsibility of oil companies. They come and drill and take everything from the ground, and then they leave and they don't clean up. And if they can avoid responsibility, like they have doing in Ecuador, where former Texaco, now Chevron, has polluted the rainforest where the indigenous communities, has polluted their waterway, their water that they depend on, and everything that they depend on for their survival. And that's why oil companies do. They want more and more. Right now, Carson is exposed to another threat. Phillips 66 just got a permit from AQMD to operate a humongous storage tank. You're going to have more duty crude called Tarzan.
Okay.